Good morning. Welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Wednesday, December 16th, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S., 4:30 p.m. in London. In Hamilton, Bermuda, it's 12:30 p.m., and in Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We have an economic story that we need to give you. In the United States, construction of new homes rebounded in the month of November and went up 8.9% to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 574,000. Applications for new building permits increased 6% as well. So this is relatively good news. The stock market's up about 46 points. In other news, Time magazine announced that none other than Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, will be their Man of the Year this year. Now to our main news. The Federal Trade Commission announced this morning that it is suing Intel, the huge chip maker, accusing it of using its dominant market position to, quote, stifle competition and strengthen its monopoly. In its complaint, the FTC accused Intel of a systematic campaign to block rivals from selling their microchips by cutting off access to the market. In doing so, the FTC said Intel, quote, put the brakes on superior competitive products that threatened its microchip market share. Went on to say Intel has engaged in a deliberate campaign to hamstring competitive threats to its monopoly. The FTC brought its administrative complaint against Intel under a section of the law that prohibits unfair methods of competition and deceptive acts and practices. Intel said in a response that the suit is misguided. Well, the lid is blown off Copenhagen just as everybody is arriving, world leaders. This is a pretty typical scene outside the conference center. Danish police have now arrested 245 protesters. They've been beating them with batons and firing pepper spray and tear gas at them. This is just a day before world leaders hoped to sign a historic agreement to fight global warming. The talks seem to be clearly deadlocked. The chairperson of the conference, Connie Hedegaard, resigned from the chairmanship to allow her boss, the Danish Prime Minister, Lars Rasmussen, to preside. She's going to continue overseeing the closed-door discussions. Hundreds of protesters, meanwhile, are trying to disrupt the conference. Police now indicate that over 240 have been detained. Inside the conference center, negotiators dealing with core issues debated until just before dawn this morning. They failed to set any new goals for reducing greenhouse gas emissions or for financing the efforts of poorer countries to cope with coming climate change. John Ash of Antigua said, I regret to report that we've been unable to reach agreement. In those overnight talks, the American delegation apparently objected to a proposed text that it felt might bind the U.S. to prematurely reduce greenhouse emissions before the Congress acts. U.S. envoys insisted, for example, on replacing the word shall with the conditional word should. According to Fred Krupp of the U.S. Environmental Defense Fund, a lot of things are in play. This is the normal rhythm of international negotiations. Meanwhile, as we speak, dozens and dozens of world leaders are arriving. The president will arrive tomorrow. Reinsurance news, QBE's European operations have acquired the brand and renewal rights of the Evergreen portfolio from MSP Underwriting Limited. MSP is the Lloyd's underwriting agency wholly owned by Munich Re. QBE said that the combination of the team's high-quality skills as well as QBE's distribution strengths will assist it in its ambition of growing its property business and expanding its UK national capabilities. Bernard McGeehan, the managing director of property, QBE Europe, said this acquisition will support the ongoing growth of QBE's property business as we move toward our goal of building a top 5 position in the UK market. Well, yesterday the Boeing 787 took its little test flight. I had indicated it was going to be on CNBC. It turned out it was on just about all the cable networks. It took off on a approximately 2-hour flight. The test pilot said that it went off without a hitch. The main test pilot, Mike Carricker, told reporters, "We learned more about this airplane in the first 10 minutes of flying than we have in the last 100 days. They're planning a second flight probably over the weekend. The 787 will then undergo rigorous flight tests before the first plane is going to be delivered to customers next year. That first plane supposedly will go to Japan's ANA Airlines, All Nippon Airways, sometime about a year from now. The 787 is 2 years late to the market. It remains popular with airlines because they can save about 20% on fuel. Boeing has 850 orders for the 787 on its books. They expected the plane to make money over the long term. Robert Stuchberry will succeed Ewan Gilmore as the new Chief Executive Officer of Chaucer Holdings beginning on 1/1 next year. Gilmore is retiring from Chaucer at the end of this year. He's accepted a non-executive chairman role at Lloyd's member agent Hampton Agencies. There were some other changes at Chaucer's. Stuchberry will hand over his current role as Chief Underwriter Officer of Chaucer to Bruce Bartell. Bartell will step down as active underwriter of Syndicate 1084. That role will be filled by John Fowle. Ken Curtis has been appointed Chief Financial Officer. He's going to join the Chaucer board. And at the Lloyd's Managing Agency, Chaucer Syndicates Limited, Bob Deutsch will succeed Gilmore as chairman from the beginning of 2010. Stock market remains up about 45 points. We'll go to a word from our sponsors. A severe tropical cyclone is gathering force off the northwest coast of Australia today. It's forcing residents to take shelter as it's going to unleash very, very destructive winds. The severe tropical cyclone is named Lawrence. The remote Western Australian community of Curie Bay, north of the city of Broome, was placed on red alert as the Australian Weather Bureau upgraded the cyclone to a Category 5. That's the most destructive of its kind. Winds of up to 285 kilometers an hour, it's about 170 miles an hour, are going to hit the coast near Curie Bay with gusts of up to 60 miles per hour, possible further south. Rainfall is expected to be in excess of 100 millimeters. The weather forecasters are saying that they think it's going to hit land about 0900 Greenwich Mean Time, very close to Cockatoo Bay. That means it's already hit. We don't have any reports of what's happened. Once it crosses the tiny mining island, the Australian weather people are saying the cyclone is expected to weaken. Meanwhile, the fire crews are bracing for